Oh man, if you even knew what went on in the background of these episodes of Man to Man on Father's Fire, you guys would think it's a three-ring circus. And
Nothing.
actually today there are three of us, so it's perfect for a three-ring circus.
Nothing goes on behind the scenes.
Sean's he's trying to join us, but he's like racing a rainstorm, and he's in the middle of roofing. So I'm
Man.
not sure if he's going to join us or not. So,
Oh man.
Hey, I have
oh
something I
man,
want to say.
yeah.
Mike,
What's that?
Mike, do you have enough lions on your wall?
Listen. I'm currently looking for some empty space. I see some up here, but it won't be visible. Well, no, right there. I can put
Yeah.
something right there.
Yeah.
I would have to find a line that's kind of bent down like this, so he can.
Crouching lion?
Yeah.
Tiger?
Yeah. Look, I need to find a little baby lion to hang over this.
Yeah.
Put one on top of the crown here. I'm gonna find some more. Look, one day I'm gonna have one to hang right above my camera, so it can just be looking down at everybody like this.
You remind me of that one neighbor that is inevitably in one neighborhood, in one town. There's always the one person that has 1,000 gnomes in their yard.
Yeah. Man, listen, when we move to the new house, I already told my wife I need 2 marble lions coming up the driveway. Or it's a deal breaker.
Well, if you move to Florida, you're gonna have to move to flamingos, man. You have a bunch of pink flamingos everywhere.
Oh man.
But I think you're a little exclusionary, man. What's up with that? I mean, lions, panther. I mean, what about panthers and leopards and tigers?
That's not a real cat.
No, man. You gotta have some diversity, man. Come on
No.
now.
The lion.
That's
The
a little
lion
racist.
is the lion. The lion is the king for a reason.
Yeah. So how do you really feel about hyenas?
They're the enemy. The hyena is the enemy of the lion.
That's funny, man.
Hyenas laugh. They play around too much.
Kind of like this podcast.
Right.
Oh man.
Oh,
I
man.
tell you, it has been far too long since we got together. We're catching up for last month. It's hard to believe it's already March 22nd, and I'm like, man, where the heck did the time go by? And I know Antoine, you had a big event, a men's event at the first part of this month. So how did that go, man?
Man, it was awesome, man. It was like completely charged atmosphere. You know, to be in a room with a group of men that are just hungry for, I mean, everything that God has for them. You know what I mean? It's like God, what do you have for me? I'm ready. And you know, I feel like I said this before, but I'll say it again. But I think I'm experiencing deja vu. But but anyway, but yeah, man, you know, to be in the room, I've been in situations where I had speaking engagements, and you know, you feel like sometimes you have to plow, you have to, you know, throw out some you know, icebreakers to get the crowd going, you know, maybe even tap dance if necessary, just to get them going, you know. But in this experience, it was just like, you can get up there and just say hello or good morning, and they were just charged. You just you know, and so the atmosphere was just charged up, man. And I mean, I had a good time to be able to have the honor of being a speaker at this particular conference too. Was just amazing. It was just amazing.
That's awesome. I wish I could have been there. I actually looked at flights to see if I could figure out a way to get there, but I couldn't make it happen. So I was going to try to surprise you, but I couldn't quite get it all lined up. Yeah, it would have been fun. So, and Mike, you've been up to some amazing things, man. You just seem to be rolling out materials left and right, man, both video and books and manuals. And
Man, listen, I can roll out books and manuals and courses, but one thing that I just can't seem to grab hold of is a beard like you and Antoine's. For whatever reason, mine won't grow. This is the most I get, right? And like I said before, man, it gets to this point, and after a while, it looks like I just have some disease or something, man. So, but no,
That's why
man,
you do a goatee.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But no, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's just like we were talking before the call. It's so much. I would say that God has allowed me to experience and allowed me to learn from those experiences. And it got to a point for me where I started to feel guilty for holding so much in. Um, so it's that I think that's the season that I'm in now, just releasing the content, just releasing the information with the expectation that it will help somebody, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm just on that journey right now, Jody, honestly, where everything that I've learned over the years, I want to get it out,
Yeah.
because people are hurting, man. People are hurting, and it sounds crazy because when I knew that I was going to pull the plug or pull the trigger on the book that I released today, I told my wife last night, I said, I think I just heard another one. You know what I mean? And so I've already contacted my graphic designer. I said, hey man, I think I have another one. And here's the part that's exciting to me. My wife, I think she heard that she has a title that she wants to work on now. So I
Oh
think that's
man,
just the season, right? It's just the
that's
season to just
awesome.
help as many people as possible, man. So I'm excited. I'm excited
You
about it.
know, and I like that the language of a season,
Yeah.
right? Because as we walk through life, there are seasons of learning and development, of
Hmm.
discovery, of growth,
Hmm.
and you reach a point where you you come to a season that says, you know what, in order for you to fulfill your purpose, to leverage what you've learned, it is now time for you to share.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
last night, I got two different people reach out to me about the impressions, the impact that my book, Learning to Dance with the Currents of Life,
Mm.
when you feel like you're drowning, has impacted them. And so I had this really great text interchange with this lady that's reading my book. She just had a heart attack, so God bless her, and hopefully she'll be on a speedy recovery. And then
Mm.
another brother that reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a question about Eddie's." And so and he's texting me. I'm like, "Dude, just call me." And we ended up having about a 45-minute discussion about where he was in his life and feeling trapped, like he was stuck in an eddy. And he's like, his words were actually interesting. He goes, "I feel like I need a rest from the eddy."
Wow.
I
Mhm.
go, "That tells me that you need to get out of the eddy."
Man, that's good.
Because as you guys know, if I've done a lot of whitewater rafting, and an eddy usually happens behind an obstacle. And what happens is the water, it looks like it's not moving, like it's still, but it's actually moving in a slow, very slow, hardly discernible current that is
Mm.
going counter to the main current of the river.
Mm.
And so while the river is going downstream, this actually goes upstream and then comes back downstream, goes upstream, then comes downstream. I think a lot of times in our life, we get caught in an eddy. And an eddy can be a strategic place to rest. So a
Mm.
lot of times you're coming through a heavy rapid, and you get out of the crush of it and the speed of it, and you need to rest. And so you can pull into an eddy behind this protected obstacle, and you can sit there and regroup. But
Mm.
sometimes you can stay in an eddy. You can feel like you need to get out. And in fact, it's interesting, in some eddies, if you sit right in the middle, you can spin in a circle.
Mm.
Hmm.
And as I was talking to this guy, he was spinning in a circle. And I said, "You're at that point where you need to make a push out towards the main current. And as as you make the strategic pushes forward, that main current will catch you and pull you into the next phase of your life.
That's good.
And I think that's important, right? Is to recognize when we're trapped and when we need to go, all right, you know what? I've been stagnating long enough. I've rested long enough. Now it's time to move.
Mm.
And you
Yeah.
know, it's a really great discussion about that, about when to move and when to rest and when to recognize that you're caught in the trap of complacency.
Yeah.
It's really good discussion. I also, it's interesting that discussion with this guy because he is a conversation that I had with him when he first got my book is the genesis of tonight's topic. So tonight we're going to talk about the power of words. No, do your words as a father, as a husband, do they tear down or do they build up? Do they build bridges? Do they build confidence? Do they destroy hearts? Because when I was talking to him a couple months ago, he's like, "Yeah, you know, my dad, he always made me feel insignificant."
Hmm.
Made me feel like I was dumb and stupid. In fact, often he would call me stupid because I didn't understand something. I didn't know how to do it. Well, I hadn't been taught.
Hmm.
And yet he had this expectation that I should automatically do it. And his words just really cut to my heart. So that's what I want to talk about, gents. You know, how do we as men, you know, talk in the language of love? And you know, do our words build up or do they tear down? And sometimes even maybe we're saying something as a kind of in jest, kind of in a joke, but the undercurrent is divisive and mean and demeaning. So what has you guys' experience been, you know, as you've interacted with your kids? How have you learned to, you know, use language that lifts?
Man, that's a really great question, honestly. And I will start it off honestly and admit that my wife has been helping me with this. Um, because for me, and I think both of you guys know this about me, I'm so driven by results that all I see in my mind is a solution or the end result of a thing, right? And so what I'm starting to realize is that even when, like, you know, when I'm talking with my children now, I'm talking with the end in mind, right? And so I'm speaking almost from this angle, expecting them to see what I see, right? And so what happens though is that if I continue to follow down that road, then it opens up a door for me to be frustrated because they're not seeing it the way that I'm seeing it, right? And so I give you a prime example with my 7-year old. He knows the very first thing that he does when he comes home is let's get this homework done, right? And so one of the things that he's overcoming is having this distaste for math, right? Now he understands how to do it, right? I can sit there and he can just do it all day long. He just doesn't like it. Right? He doesn't like the whole logical thinking side of it. Well, me, I'm a logical thinker. And so I'm sitting here and I'm saying, you know how to do this. Stop acting like you don't know how to do it. And so my wife had to arrest me with that because my frustration would come out, my anger would come out, my tone would lift. And what I wasn't acknowledging is that when I would become forceful with him, it was actually taking away his motivation to actually do it, right? And I'm gonna tell you the interesting thing. It although my wife would tell me this all the time, it clicked for me. I would say recently, very recent, where she sent me it was like a little gif or a meme or whatever it is, right? And it had SpongeBob, right, on one side of it, and then on the other side it was another SpongeBob picture. But what it had on one side was this is how dads yell at their children as they're doing their homework, and it has SpongeBob just yelling, right? But here's the part that hit me, and I'm just like, oh wow. On the other side of the picture, it was SpongeBob with tears in his eyes. And the caption was, "This is your child trying to see the words or the page, or no, trying to see the math problem while you're yelling at him." And it hit me like, oh my goodness. I said, wow, that is so true, man. I never seen it like that before. And so now I'm consciously thinking about it, right? Like you just said, Jody, how is what I'm saying to them actually inspiring or tearing them down? So for me, my wife has been helping me with that, and even in our conversations together, I'm a little bit more stubborn when it's me and her talking, but again, she's helping me understand, like, listen, I understand you look at it this way, but I need you to hear it from my perspective as well. So I'm more mindful of it, and it's a fun journey. It really is. It's a fun journey when you have a desire to grow. But if you don't have a desire to grow, it's going to be very frustrating, right? And you're going to think it's you against the world, but it's an opportunity to become more, to become a better man, to become a better husband, to become a better father. And so that's what's been helping me, really just listening to the words of my wife, listening to gentlemen like you that, you live what you teach. And so it's necessary though. It is necessary.
Yeah, that's good, man. I was just listening to everything that you were saying, and just I was thinking about affirmation. You think about positive affirmation, where you're building somebody up with words rather than tearing them down. And I think, man, one of the things that I notice is that we as a people, society, are so driven by results and more of a quantitative outcome than a quality outcome. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we focus on the numbers. We focus on so by focusing on the numbers, we're the way we are and the way we're built was that we don't get it right all the time. We're going to make mistakes. I remember when I was getting to that point in my life where I'm like, I was getting a little bit of height, I mean, for a little bit. I'm not that tall, but I was like, everybody that I played basketball with, most of the guys were 6 foot or taller, and they could dunk, and I barely got to 5'10", and so I remember I'm like 5'9", 5'8", and I'm in the ninth, 10th grade, and I'm like trying to dunk, and every attempt I'm going up and I'm missing, and I just couldn't get it. And then maybe by my 10th grade year was the first time I was able to finally get up there and get it down. But if you add up and count all the times I missed against the times I actually made it, if I had somebody there saying, what are you doing? You're never gonna get that done. Particularly if it's my father, somebody that matters. So you're wasting your time. You need to focus on this. I would have stopped. It would have been enough to control me and keep me from being able to focus on a goal that I really wanted to accomplish. I mean, everything is numbers based. I mean, if you watch baseball, if you're batting, 300-400, you're a good hitter. So we're not talking about the 7 times out of 10 that you hit nothing. But everything is numbers based. And so, and if you're not hitting the number, then people are going to tell you. They're going to let you know. You watch enough sports writers, they get on TV and they focus on the negative. They focus on what certain players didn't do, what they didn't accomplish. LeBron James is used to scoring maybe 30 points a game. Did you see the game? LeBron only scored 15 points. What's wrong with him? And so, we get so much negative feedback that when we get positive feedback, it's so out of balance. And so, and I was thinking about that. There's a scripture that came to mind. It's Job. Let me see. It's Job 6:25. It says, "How forcible are right words? How forcible are right words?" We already know how forcible negative words are or the wrong words are, but the right words. And like Mike, man, I got to a point where I was realizing that my kids were suffering from a lot of wrong words. It was way out of balance. You know, they're gonna make more mistakes than they are gonna get it right. That's just the nature of a human being. We're gonna make more mistakes than we are gonna get it right. And I would focus on the mistakes more than I'm focusing on what they're doing right. And it wasn't until I really got a revelation of that and began to start affirming them. I mean, I was getting to the point where I'm fishing to find something to compliment them on because they just didn't get it right. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you know what?
Hey, you showed up today.
Right. It's like, yeah.
You woke up.
Yeah. You woke up so good this morning. Yeah, you woke up good, you know?
Wow, how'd you do that?
You put your pants on? Wow. You years old, you put your pants on. You know what I mean? But just something to let them know that you're watching, you're paying attention. And that's all they need. That's all they need. And that's really what those right words do. You know, like what you said, are we building a bridge or are we tearing down? You know, and I think that bridge is really the bridge between you and them. Because if you're building a bridge between you and them, you're building something that they can cross to get to you. You know, they want to come to you, but you're not building a bridge. They want to come to you and talk to you. How come my son don't talk to me? How come my daughter won't talk to me? Because you're not building a bridge. Building a bridge is you being able to affirm them and tell them how awesome they are. Tell them how great they are. Tell them how beautiful they are. If it's a daughter, you know, you might not want to say your son is beautiful, but but how handsome you are. You know how strong your chin is. You know, you look like you can take a punch, boy. You know, just something to let them know that you're paying attention.
not like your not like your glass jaw cousin.
Yo, but like here's the crazy thing about that though. Like it's funny to hear it, but it's so true, right? I mean, just as a little boy to hear his father say, "Boy, you look like you can take a punch," you know, like that's like, man, daddy sees me becoming, you know, a little tougher. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way though, but that's so true, man.
But it really has an impact on somebody's heart, right? Especially when and I like that you pointed out that especially if it would have been for my dad, it would have profoundly affected me. And something that Mike said really hit me. He said that his very tone and his mannerisms and the words that he could use, even though his son could do it, it destroyed his motivation to do it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we're struggling with kids trying to inspire them and motivate them to move forward, but our very words are doing the exact opposite.
Yeah.
They're doing exact opposite.
Yeah. And that is so tough, man, because you want so much for them, or in our minds, right? We want so much for them. And like you said, we don't realize that we're actually breaking that down. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it can be tough though. It can be tough because again, you know, you want it all.
I love that Antoine brought out that scripture in Job, because I was thinking, and I can't recall the verse that's in the New Testament, it said, "Let your speech be sprinkled with salt." And it's referencing the salt covenant. But if you think about salt, what does salt do? It preserves.
Yeah.
It makes things last longer. It seasons. It brings out the taste. It brings out the richness. And so by the very language that we use with our children, we can bring out the best in them. We can give them hope and sustain them. And it's amazing how one little quote, one little saying can last through the day, through a week, right? Just by a word of encouragement, a word of love.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting, man, because my wife is really, really good at that. She really is. She's really, really good at that. When she fixes the boys' lunch in the morning, um, she makes it a habit to, put a note on the lunch bag, right? You're awesome today. Mom and dad is so proud of you. And at one point, I'm like, man, look, now you do that with the little girls, but with the boys, but again, that was one of those things where I had to realize that as a father, and going back to kind of what Antoine said, how did it make me feel when my father affirmed me growing up? Right. And here's the irony, even in that, even as a grown man today, it still hits differently when you hear your parents say, I'm proud of you for
Mhm.
XYZ. Right. So
Mhm.
why would that change for our children? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's an exciting journey, man. It
Yeah.
really is. It really, really is. And I think as fathers, for sure, we have to think about how will that affect our sons and our daughters 20, 30, 40 years from now, right?
Mhm.
Now, what's even more interesting is how will it affect our grandchildren? Because our children, if they don't learn, will pass that same trait on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So we're
Yeah.
not only impacting our children, but we're impacting generations after, and so our words are critical. Words are critical,
Yeah.
man.
They are, man. When I think back on that scripture too, where how forcible are right words, those right words hit so hard that they linger, they last. You carry them from, like you said, Mike, from generation to generation. When you get the right words, you know, I remember playing basketball when I was in high school, and my father came up to me. I think I was in 10th grade. He came up to me at halftime of the game, and he said, man, you know what? He said, you're quicker than the guys that they're putting out there to defend you. You're quicker. He said, you got a quick first step. Take that quick first step, get by them, and you home free. You can go right to the basket, lay up, whatever, open pass, whatever you can do whatever you want to do. And I remember when he said that, I was like, huh. So I get out there on the court, and I remember doing it, and I realized that I was quicker than the guys that were defending me. And I'm 46 years old, and I never forgot that. I never forgot that moment. I remember the moment. I remember it was a home game. You know what I mean? I remember we had on our home jerseys, and he kind of came over to me at halftime, and it was, you know, what he said to me was something that a lot of people probably would say a father might say to a son. But for me, I needed to hear that in that moment. That was the right
Mhm.
word for me in that moment. It not only carried me through that game, but it carried me even to today. And
Wow.
so I think about stuff like that now when I'm dealing with my own kids. What do I need to say to them? What is needed for and that's why it's important for us to be led by God, man, because uh, we don't always know, but God knows.
Yeah.
If I'm
Yeah.
if I'm going to God and say, okay, God, help me today as I'm dealing with my children, give me the right words to say. I ask God for wisdom every day. The Bible says, "He who lacks wisdom, ask God for it; He'll give it to you liberally." So I'm
Absolutely.
like, hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what do I need to know today about my children? What do I need to know about my wife? What can I say to my wife today? What can I say to my children today to encourage them, to build them up? And so that's what my wife just came down here and said, say you love me. I love you. I love you.
Love you, Daria.
Well,
That's not the first time he said that tonight, by the way, Darius.
No.
I can feel the force.
I I love that story. I really really love that story of your dad saying something that what it was obvious to him, but it wasn't obvious to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just by making you aware of it, you were able to tap into a natural gift to
Yeah.
accelerate your game
Hmm.
and your love for the game and your competitiveness.
Man,
I,
that's good,
I
Joe.
absolutely love that. And I think too, I think back on an experience I had with my own dad. I was a little kid. I mean, I was 4'8" until the 10th grade, and I grew between the 10th and 11th grade to 5'2". I was a little midget. So I was always walking around with this little man's complex. And I will never forget, about 14, I went through this really ugly stage. I mean, I felt ugly. My hair was greasy, you're getting the zits and had the big old glasses. I felt ugly. And I remember going to a church activity, and that day there was something with my hair, man. It was greasy, and I knew it. I mean, it'd been washed, but it just, you could tell. And man, I got ribbed. I got torn down by the boys, right? And I came home and I told my dad, I am never, ever going to church again. I'm never going and hanging out with any of those kids. And after letting me vent, my dad said, the first thing he said, first of all, do you love and do you have a relationship with God? And I said, yeah. He said, why would you allow the ignorance and the unkind words of somebody else keep you away from him?
Hmm.
And why do their words really matter to you? Because do you know who you are? I know right now you're struggling. Your body's changing, all these things. But do you know who you really are? And the thing that you need to know more than anything right now is I love you, and I'll walk through this with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that changed my perspective.
Yeah.
Because he embraced how I was feeling. He gave me space to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
But then he asked me questions that really made me look inward to what was most important. And those questions changed the direction of where I could have gone.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because Jody, you just made me think about this. Why is it, not most men, but why do you guys think so many men can't consciously affirm their children? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying consciously because it's again, going back, I put myself in this. I had to consciously remind myself, like I would literally hear my wife's voice tell me, think about how that's making him feel. You don't need to yell, you don't need to this, you don't need to that. But it took some effort on my end, right? But why is it, do you think that most men, I don't want to say most, but a lot, right? Why is it that a lot of men don't affirm? I was thinking about Antoine, when you were sharing your story about your dad in the basketball, right? I picture, and I think Jody, I think you sent this to us before, of the little guy that was trying to run up the ramp. I think that was you that sent it to me. But it was a little guy trying to run up a ramp, and I mean, he was going, man. He would run all the way back, and boom, he would go halfway up, and you could tell he was getting discouraged, right? He was getting tired, he was getting discouraged, but you can hear his dad in the background telling him he can do it. You can do it. Yes, you can. You can do it. You can do it. So once he saw the frustration begin to set in with his son, he told him, he said, son, come here, come here. Now you don't see the dad at all. You just hear his voice. Man, that's deep. You don't see him, but you hear his voice, right? And so all you hear was him telling him to repeat after him. As his father, he was saying, repeat after me. And he would tell the little boy and say, I am strong. And the little boy, I am strong. I am. And he just affirming, I can do this and all this other kind of stuff, right? And so he said, okay. He said, now I want you to try again and give it everything you got. And just remember, you can do this. You're strong. You're powerful. You're this, you're that. And that little joker went up there and bow, he got up there. I said, my goodness. Just to hear the words of his father say, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I believe in you, I'm this, I'm that. It was so amazing for me to see that, right? Because again, I think about my own life. One thing that I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt is that my parents affirmed us like crazy, right? And of course, there was moments where it's just like, dang, but for the most part, they affirmed us and they let us know, listen, you can be anything you want to be. Don't allow people to tell you this. Don't allow people to make you think this. Never use this. Never, you know what I mean? And so it's little things like that that stuck with me. But again, it comes back full circle and say, why is it that a lot of guys, a lot of men don't consciously do that?
Man, you know what? I think that's a really good question. And I believe that, here's what I thought about. The Bible says wisdom is a principal thing, but get it, but with your getting, get an understanding. And I think it's a lack of wisdom. I think it's a lack of wisdom more so than it is a lack of them wanting to push their sons positively. So in other words, let's flip that. You got a kid trying to get up a hill. This is what I'm used to hearing. Not myself. My dad didn't do this to me, but I've heard this a lot. Boy, what's wrong with you? You can't get up that hill. What's your problem? You ain't trying. You ain't trying. I am trying. No, you're not. No, if you were trying, you would have been got up that hill. What's wrong with you? Why you acting so weak? I really believe if in their heart of hearts, their father believes that they are doing the best thing for their child.
Wow.
They're trying to use that to motivate their child, and they don't understand that they're breaking them down. In some cases, the child that actually gets up there, they got something else going on the inside of them. Something switches on the inside of them, and they're able to do it. And and it's partly because of what their dad is telling them, but another part of it is like, I'm tired of him, breaking me down. If I don't get up there, he's gonna keep breaking me down. But a lot of kids fall victim to that type of enforcement, because it's not positive reinforcement. It's them tearing them down, calling them weak because they can't get up there. And so I think that it's just it's a lack of wisdom, and understanding on how to encourage them, how to build them up. Like you said, that example of that father, you can totally get your son up that hill by telling him how great he is.
Yeah.
I mean, chart progress. Man, the last time you got up there, you only got up there about 2 feet. But the that time just now, you got up there about 2.5 feet. Man, if you try a little harder, you can probably get up 3 feet. So now you're incrementally, but that takes time.
Yeah.
That takes time. That takes devotion. That's discipleship. Now we're talking about discipleship. We're talking about a whole nother level of parenting, because I'm not mad at you because you're not getting up that hill. I'm trying to encourage you and build you up so you can get up that hill. And so, that's the difference. So I think that wisdom causes you to now build them up incrementally, even if it takes time. It may take you a longer than, and that's the other thing. You got another child that was able to get up that hill, no problem. Now, what, you can't even, your brother got up there, no problem, That's another, now you're comparing them, but a good father in that situation says, okay, don't worry about your brother. Don't worry about your brother. He's been practicing for a long time. That's why he was able to get up the hill. But I'm going to help you get up the hill. That's a whole nother level, man, because it takes patience, endurance, true love to be able to sit there with them, because some parents just be like, you know what, you ain't gonna ever make it. Just forget it. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to watch some real winners on TV, So that's what they do.
No, and go ahead.
I love that you pointed out the subtle difference of just language, because a lot of men think they're being encouraging, but when you say, what, how come you're being so weak, can't you get up there already, all the kid hears is, I'm weak.
Yeah.
I failed.
Yep.
They don't hear, I'm strong and I can. That's what the father intends, but that's not what the kid hears.
Yep.
And so we need to be very mindful of how we change the way we speak to our kids, so that it's in a direction that is moving them forward, not
Yeah.
unintentionally pulling them back.
Yeah.
Man, that is so good, Jody. And again, I think it even extends even into their adulthood. This is what I'm learning personally, that it extends even into their adulthood. With my our three oldest, you have Michael, who's he's doing his own little thing, he's doing really well, but I try to make it a point to let him know how proud I am of the father that he's becoming. Right. My son Malik, I'm so proud of you, man. You're taking care of business. You're doing this, you're doing that, and especially my daughter Micaiah. It's so interesting with Micaiah. I was telling my wife, man, this was like 4 o'clock in the morning, right? And man, I don't even remember what the dream was, but I literally felt my daughter's pain. Like I felt it. Whatever she was dealing with, I felt the pain, and it woke me up out of my sleep. And so at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm texting my daughter and I'm letting her know, hey, daddy's up praying for you. Right. I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't expecting her to respond. I just wanted her to know that her father was praying for her. Right. Y'all, this girl texted me back and said, Daddy, I'm trying. At 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Right. And so, but again, that's that conscious thought of letting your children know that regardless of decisions, regardless of whatever, you still believe in them. You're still proud of them. You still love them. Nothing that they do will ever change that. Right. And I'm noticing that, like I said, even into their adulthood, right? My daughter will be 18 in June. But I'm noticing how much she needs that, right? So it's interesting, man. It's really interesting how it doesn't stop.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't stop. I think there is this kind of expectation that when the kids turn 18 that they move out, right? In American culture, other cultures that's not necessarily the same. But it's interesting because as I look at my oldest son and my youngest daughter, my oldest son has aspirations of being a model and an actor and a musician. And when he came to me with this goal, with this dream, I said, why not you? Why not you? Because it's easy to go, I'm not there yet. I'm like, dude, pay the price, put in the work, put in the reps, and open that door, force that door open. Because why not you? It was Beyonce. It was, you name them, you go down the list. It started out from nowhere, and all of a sudden they're a megastar. So why not you?
Yeah.
And then on the other end, my youngest daughter, she had a dream of being a D1 volleyball athlete since she was like 6 years old. I mean, that was her dream. That's all she worked out for. And she's 5'3". The average height at D1 is like 5'10", right? And so she walked on to UVU, and I told her, I said, look, you are used to always being on the court. You're used to playing all the time, to being that go-to person. I go, you have to be so unforgettable off the court and on the court that they can't help but not put you on the court.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is the first year that she went there, their team, for the first time in school history, made it to the NCAA tournaments. And my daughter, she took ownership of that bench. I mean, she took ownership. So I go off to the NCAA tournament. I'm watching them play, right? And they did really good. They could have won that first game, but they made some key errors that led them to losing. And I'll never forget, I came home and Judy goes, Jody, you got to watch this. I go, what do you mean? She goes, you got to watch the game. So she had it all queued up. And so it started out, they did a volley, they got the kill, and then it went back, and then they lost. And so they called it, they go off, and the ESPN announcers pan the camera over to the UVU bench, and they go, and there is Lonnie Sedrick, the juice of the team. And she's
Wow.
on the bench,
Wow.
right? So you can have an impact wherever you are. And I told her, I go, you have an impact on the team no matter where you are, and you will earn your space on the court.
Man, that's so good.
And
Yeah.
and this year she got her scholarship.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's amazing though, man, because when you think about like what you said, man, it's so much power in our words, and
Wow.
and we can use them to build people or tear them down. I remember watching this thing on Jim Harbaugh and the Harbaugh family, their father, Mr. Harbaugh. He had this statement that he made with his family. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but he does it. He used to say when they were kids, they would be riding in the car. Just, they didn't have a whole lot of money at that time. He was coaching, getting gigs, coaching gigs, but he wasn't like making a lot of money. He wasn't as successful as either of his sons were, John or Jim Harbaugh. But he would say this, who has it better than us? And he would make the family say, nobody. He said, who has it better than us? They say, nobody. So they grew up believing that they were great. So by doing that, he put greatness in them. So anything that they did, they expected that they were going to outdo whoever the competition was, or whatever the obstacle was, whatever the opposition was, they were greater than the opposition. Whether it was a person, whether it was a set of circumstances, they didn't grow up thinking that they could not be great, that they could not be better than the situation that was in front of them. And so now you got Jim Harbaugh, who's the coach of the University of Michigan football team. And they just won the Big Ten championship last year. Finally beat Ohio State. It was a major milestone. You got his brother who has won a Super Bowl ring coaching the Baltimore Ravens. And they both had success as players too. And so here you got these guys. I'm watching Jim Harbaugh. He's in the huddle with his guys, University of Michigan. And he says, who has it better than us? And the whole team, nobody. Like you said, he carried that thing with him everywhere he went. He's putting it into his children. He's putting it into his players. And so, and then they did it. They beat Ohio State, which was the big deal. But it was because of the fact that his father put that in him with his words.
Yep.
And they carried him throughout the rest of his life, even today. It's amazing what we say.
Man. Can't add to that, man. Can't add to that.
But there's a key thing that you said in there. What their father put into them, they put into others.
Yes. Yep.
So what you are putting into your kids is going to ripple across not only their lives, but the lives of those in their circle and generations to come.
Yeah.
So we can be the voice of change that sounds across generations if we're willing to change our tone and the words that we use, because we can be the voice of hope. We can be the voice of light.
Yeah.
If we just make a few minor changes in the way that we speak to our children. And I think it starts from the way that we see them.
Yeah.
If we see them as children of God, as we see them achieving their dreams, those crazy big dreams that they're dreaming of, and you can see it with them, they will become what you believe them to be. And what you speak into them. So be the voice of light for your kids.
Yeah. It does. It means so much for a child to have their parents say, hey, you know what? You're great. You're good. You're awesome. You're amazing. You're I mean, even if it I don't want to encourage anybody to lie, but if you I mean, even just the effort. You know what I mean?
Call those things that be not.
Yeah, you get out there in a basketball game and you don't even get off the bench. You know what I mean?
Dude, you're the best player on the team.
Right. Yeah, you making it hard for me to give you a compliment because you didn't. The jersey.
Coach wants you to get some rest because you're that good.
Your jersey is dry. You don't even need a shower.
But you guys are killing me, man.
That's how good you are. You didn't even break a sweat.
Don't nobody leave the game dry like you do.
Who's better than we are?
You're so dry.
Who's better than us?
Nothing like a little humor to put things into perspective. Oh man. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight because it's been such a great conversation, but it's also been so much fun too. So guys that are listening, I hope you can see through the humor and the jokes and feel the intent of our heart, because we really do have words and hearts that are bent on building up, not tearing down, building bridges. And so please remember, like, share, and subscribe. Reach out and connect with Mike Lewis, my brother, and Antoine Brown, my other brother. And we will check you same time, same bat channel just next week. See ya.
Oh, man.
You're killing